We're told that there could be a bloodbath.
Could this be too chaotic?
White House staff brace for the purge.
Very volatile couple of weeks. How is he doing personally?
Sounded great. Say sounded great.
Jeff Sessions is considering whether to fire the ex-deputy FBI director, Andrew McCabe, before he's officially set to retire.
2 U.S. Navy aviators are dead after their FA-18 fighter jet crashed during a training flight near Key West, Florida.
The Florida school shooter appeared in court.
His lawyer said he would plead guilty only if his life is spared.
The White House has backed Britain's decision to expel 23 Russian diplomats in response to the nerve agent attack on a former spy.
Russia must account for its actions.
It is game over for Toys R Us. The iconic retailer announced it will sell or close all.
The military that would patrol outer space. Space is a war-fighting domain. We may even have a space force.
Space Force! Space Force! Look, as long as J.J. Abrams directs and Mark Hamill has a cameo, I'm in.
This morning's eye-opener is presented by Toyota. Let's go.
All right. We back. Trying to find out what's going on with since the president left Cali. But, well, that was just yesterday, but you gotta understand, life goes on. You know, you can't put your hands but in one place. And that's your own pockets. You know, to find out what your contribution should be. You know, needs to be, gotta be, you know. So you gotta do your part, you know. You gotta go out there and do your part, find out what you gotta do to inspire you to be that fool, you know. I mean, not fool as far as, because, you know, you call yourself fools in a form of endearment, right? You know what they do? Hey fool, what's up fool? Chillin' fool, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's what we do, you know. So you gotta understand that this world is going to keep spinning until it don't spin no more. But one thing it's going to do is going to spin. So you have to just kind of follow your own spirit and find out why when you're in this position that you're in, you can just go for it, you know. Just go for it. Keep going, keep going. Because, need you, you know. What it is, how would you know that? You know, I mean, you don't know ESP, right? Let's go again. I don't know what the president talking about.
Security advisor, and up to 3 cabinet secretaries, or some smaller combination of that. The sense of anxiety is pervasive, the unpredictable nature of this without precedent. What ultimately happens depends on President Trump's volatile mood and, of course, available, willing replacements.
We're coming back and doing it more so than we've ever done before. We're setting records.
President Trump touted what he called record-setting economic progress in St. Louis Wednesday, but the turnover of top White House aides has also made history. So far, more than 20 senior administration staffers have either been fired, resigned, or reassigned. The next to go could be National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, expected to be replaced by former Bush administration official and frequent Fox News analyst John Bolton. Bolton is a hawk on Iran and North Korea, like new Secretary of State nominee Mike Pompeo. Veteran Secretary David Shulkin could also be forced out, with Energy Secretary Rick Perry ready to replace him. In February, the VA Inspector General determined Shulkin used taxpayer dollars on a lavish trip to Europe for his wife. Mr. Trump joked about firing Shulkin last summer.
It will be properly implemented. Right, David? Better be David. We'll never have to use those words on our David.
Sources said Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Ben Carson is also in jeopardy after purchasing a $31,000 dining room set for his office. The order was eventually canceled. And the man brought in last summer to impose order, Chief of Staff John Kelly, may also be on the way out, according to congressional and administration sources.
I don't like across-the-board tariffs.
President Trump's new chief economist, CNBC commentator Larry Kudlow, gave an interview in which he disagreed with the president on tariffs and NAFTA.
We mustn't shoot ourselves in the foot.
Kudlow, who will replace Gary Cohn, last served in government in the 1980s. He asked Cohn, himself a novice, for a quick refresher course.
I said, Gary, this is a really dumb question, but look, what do you do? What's your day like? What do you do?
There are conflicting interpretations of the job security of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Some say that EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt could soon replace Sessions. Others tell us that Sessions will stay on simply because the confirmation battle to replace him would be too exhausting even for this White House.
Major, thanks.
Amazing. It's like a bloodbath over there, what's going on.
And you know, this isn't just happening now. This has been happening since the very early days of the administration. This constant churn. It's interesting, the president was elected in part because he would bring business experience to the White House. I don't think we've ever seen a company, other than one that's gone through a buyout or restructuring, where you've had this kind of staff turnover.
It's been said he likes conflict and chaos, so there it is. It appears to be working for him.
The Justice Department, speaking of firings, may fire the FBI's former deputy director before he retires in just a few days. Andrew McCabe is accused of a lack of candor when talking with FBI officials about an investigation into the Clinton Foundation and his contact with a reporter who wrote about it. Paula Reed is at the FBI headquarters in Washington. Paula, good morning.
Good morning. Now, McCabe stepped down back in January, but he was expected to officially retire this weekend. But if Attorney General Jeff Sessions fires him, he could lose his pension, which amounts to possibly millions of dollars in retirement. Now, sources tell CBS News that ethics officials at the FBI have recommended that McCabe be fired because he was not fully forthcoming about whether he shared information with the media about the investigation into the Clinton Foundation. But those familiar with McCabe's side of the story say in his position he was authorized to talk to reporters. Of course, President Trump has been critical of the former deputy director. Back in December, he tweeted, FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe is racing the clock to retire with full benefits. 90 days to go? Now, unlike the Attorney General or the head of the FBI, McCabe doesn't serve at the pleasure of the president. He can't be fired without some evidence of wrongdoing. But as we know, the Attorney General is under scrutiny from the president, and this is an internal recommendation. So those familiar with the Attorney General's thinking believe that he will accept this recommendation and fire McCabe.
Wow. Paula, thank you. The Navy, America's most iconic toy store chain full of everything from bikes to trains to video games, plans to start closing all of its U.S. stores.
I don't want to grow up, 'cause baby is busted. I couldn't be a toy busted. More gays, more
You're going to be singing that all day long. Toys R Us announced plans to liquidate overnight. Over 70 years in business, it will close or sell its 735 U.S. locations, including its Babies R Us stores. The move means around 30,000 employees will lose their jobs. CBS News business analyst Jill Sussinger is here to look at the ripple effect this will create. Jill, good morning. This one I think really hurts because it was so fun as a kid to walk through Toys R Us stores looking at the aisles of stuff that you can't get but that you would want to dream about, and everybody wanted to be a Toys R Us kid. So they filed for bankruptcy in September. Take us through the timeline. What happened that it didn't work out?
Well, they were really hoping for a very strong holiday season, and the holiday season was quite disappointing. Now, remember, the whole reason they went into bankruptcy was sort of a convergence of bad timing and bad decisions. They did a deal in 2005 with a private equity firm. It saddled the company with $5 billion worth of debt. At the same time, online sales growing and becoming a huge player in the toy market. And also, we should note that the actual tastes of kids started to shift away from physical toys to technology.
They're on their phone.
And you put it all together, and it was a rough go. And as you said, about 33,000 employees looking at losing their jobs. This is all happening literally as we speak. They will begin the process. Those folks will get paid for 60 days. We should also note, if you have a Toys R Us gift card, try to use it online. We just went on the website. It's there, but it's going to become worthless if you don't use it quickly.
What impact do you think this is going to have on the entire toy industry?
Well, I think the larger makers, so you look at sort of a Mattel, Hasbro, they're going to be hurt for a while because this was a big outlet for them, but they also have a unique opportunity because they may go out and start gobbling up smaller toy makers and beefing up their businesses. That may be a really good growth opportunity because smaller retailers are going to have a harder time placing their products. This is, I know, a very sad time for a lot of people.
Yes.
Gail's nostalgic.
Yeah.
The CEO is nostalgic. I get that. You know, Jeffrey the giraffe, gone from the endangered to...
Saudi Arabia's crown prince says his country will develop a nuclear bomb if Iran builds nuclear weapons. Mohammed bin Salman made that startling statement during our recent visit to Saudi Arabia for this Sunday's 60 Minutes. It is the first U.S. television interview with a Saudi leader since 2005. And we asked the 32-year-old crown prince about the political, economic, and social reforms unfolding in the kingdom. We also discussed foreign policy and Saudi Arabia's longtime foe, Iran. You've been rivals for centuries. At its heart, what is this rift about? Is it a battle for Islam?
Iran is not a rival to Saudi Arabia. Its army is not among the top 5 armies in the Muslim world. The Saudi economy is larger than the Iranian economy. Iran is far from being equal to Saudi Arabia.
But I've seen that you called the Ayatollah Khamenei the new Hitler of the Middle East.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because he wants to expand. He wants to create his own project in the Middle East, very much like Hitler, who wanted to expand at the time. Many countries around the world and in Europe did not realize how dangerous Hitler was until what happened happened. I don't want to see the same events happening in the Middle East.
Does Saudi Arabia need nuclear weapons to counter Iran?
Saudi Arabia does not want to acquire any nuclear bomb. But without a doubt, if Iran developed a nuclear bomb, we will follow suit as soon as possible.
And you can see our full report with the Saudi Crown Prince Sunday night on 60 Minutes, right here on CBS.
The new Hitler of the Middle East, that was, he did not back down from that statement.
He did not back down. That's part of the reason he, as defense minister, launched this war in Yemen, which has become a deadly and costly catastrophe in many ways, a human catastrophe, humanitarian catastrophe. So that's just 2 of the headlines from this interview. Yeah.
And that's part of why the U.S. wants to be so tight with Saudi Arabia. They both see that common enemy in Iran.
That's true. I mean, remember, Saudi Arabia is our oldest ally in the Middle East, 80 years, and President Trump chose that country as his first visit as president. So, and the Crown Prince is coming here next week. So, lots more to come.
It's great. In a statement just released this morning, President Trump joined the leaders of Britain, France, and Germany in blaming Russia for the nerve agent attack on a former spy and his daughter in England. Russia's foreign minister claims his country had no motive. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin traveled to Crimea for a massive campaign rally days before his country's election. Russia took over Crimea from Ukraine 4 years ago and faced international condemnation. Elizabeth Palmer was at the rally and is in the Crimean port city of Sevastopol. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning. With only 3 days to go now before the presidential elections, the Kremlin is pushing back hard against Britain's accusations.
Here in Russia, President Putin's supporters are solidly behind their government, even though they know it means international condemnation.
Even as the Skripal crisis deepened, President Putin did not skip a beat on the campaign trail, coming here to Crimea for the last rally before the vote.
It's a deeply symbolic gesture. Crimea, he told the crowd, has come home to Russia. He's referring to 2014, when Russian soldiers seized the territory from Ukraine. It was a land grab most Russians approved of. The rest of the world declared it illegal. On his tour here, Putin also visited the bridge Russia is building from its mainland to Crimea, literally cementing its claim. The message to the U.S. and the West: Putin is never giving it back. This image of the strong man standing up to a biased, Russia-baiting world goes down well here, and Putin knows it. He also knows he's going to win on Sunday, which may be the reason he gave the home crowd a rare glimpse of his warm and fuzzy side. I, he told them, would like to hug you all.
Outwardly, though, there's no warm and fuzzy. The Kremlin is sticking to its tough line. Threaten us all you like. We did not poison Sergei Skripal. Gail?
All right, Elizabeth Palmer reporting from Crimea. Thank you. On the same day that survivors of the Florida school massacre raised their voices in protest, the gunman returned to court and said not a word. The court accepted a not guilty plea from Nicholas Cruz yesterday, but his lawyers say he is ready to spend the rest of his life in prison. Manuel Bojorquez was at the hearing. He's outside Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland with the latest on this story. Manuel, good morning.
Good morning. We're learning more details about the police response to the shooting here from new 911 calls released yesterday. Nicholas Cruz faces 34 counts of premeditated and attempted murder, and prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty.
Not guilty shall be entered on the defendant's behalf.
Even though the judge entered a not guilty plea, Nicholas Cruz's own public defenders left little doubt he was the gunman.
Mr. Cruz is willing to enter a plea of guilty on all 34 counts, consecutive life sentences, in exchange for the waiver of the death penalty.
Prosecutors rejected that offer. At Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, some students say they want the 19-year-old killer to live the rest of his life in prison.
It's just too kind, a death penalty. It's too easy. He needs to suffer.
He's twitching his blood all over.
On Wednesday, the Coral Springs Police Department released 911 calls it received from inside the school.
You still hear gunshots? It sounds like it's coming from upstairs.
Dispatchers tried to keep survivors calm and safe.
He's by your room. Just everyone be quiet, okay? Who's coming in, the police or the sheriff?
The FBI could have and should have done more to investigate the information it was provided prior to the shooting.
In Washington, Deputy FBI Director David Bowditch admitted the agency mishandled tips about the gunman, including a call from a woman close to Cruz, who said, quote, he's going to explode.
If the FBI had followed up on that tip, it would most likely have sent agents to interview the shooter.
Ryan Petty lost his daughter, Elena, in the shooting.
The senseless murder of so many, including my own beloved daughter, Elena, tests the limits of faith and demands more endurance than we thought possible.
Later today, police may release body camera video from the shooting, including footage from the former school resource officer, Scott Peterson, who authorities say did not go into the building during the attack. Peterson has defended his actions, saying he thought the shooting was happening outside.
Manuel, thanks.
All right, we back. Now, the young girl said that she do not want him to get the death penalty. She want him to suffer in prison. Now, I had said before that I might have thought he was Mexican or, Latino. Because, I don't know. I just felt it the way I saw him laying there when the police had him laying down. I wasn't sure. But, for a kid to say that, I'm trying to think, would that kid, the little white girl, I said, well, now would she feel the same way if that kid would have been in another race? Would she have said that? You see how they're trying to program to get these kids to start thinking like, like my man, Pastor Tony Smith, also Tariq, Nasheed Ahmed. I mean, not Ahmed, just not Ahmed. These always say white supremacists. See, you have to understand. I'm thinking, because I feel like in America, it's like it supposed to be like a melting pot for all races. I mean, it was, before it was just, I don't know. I really don't know. History is such a lie. You don't know what. Can you really believe what happened in the past coming from these people who write these books? Think about it. I mean, you have to understand. I mean, I've experienced a few things in my life. You know, I remember I used to work at this work security, right, for this particular newspaper. Well known newspaper. Very well known. And I used to work graveyard shift. I used to work security for it. This is back in when I first got out of the military. One of my first jobs. Matter of fact, it was my first job coming out of the military. So they had me posted up at the newspaper spot, right? So I'm working security there, right? And I had friends that worked there who I grew up with in high school. And so it was real popular. It was, you know, one of the big time ones. So I'm sitting there watching people come into work every morning. I'm like, these people are writers? I mean, they look like straight, crazy. You never know what these people run the world. These people actually run the world, you know? They look like they just halfway, like dead man walking, you know? And kind of like how I look now, huh? You know, and so I was watching, I was a kid. I was barely 25, I think, something like that. Come out the military, 24. And I was going, wow, this is what it's like. So you have to understand that when you see stuff, you have to understand that they really don't have the guidance that they had once before. Before they had, you know, they were supposed to be, you know, they told it they were slave masters. We were slaves to them. Black people were slaves to the white man. This and that. So now you have to understand that the media is all they have. That's why the media keeps it white. It's all white people in there. Even the people from other countries, they don't show dark skinned countries. They show all white skinned countries, light skin. Even the Middle Eastern, they're all white, you know, white. And so they put all these Americans all over the countries, and they're trying to, you know, that's because they're the lesser of the few. I'm thinking, you know, so they're trying to get this bond together all over the country, and that's what America's trying to do, trying to get a bond for its survival. So you have to understand how this game is played. They want a one world order in the sense of not so much about skin color, race, but about how your thinking pattern. But your thinking pattern might be going backwards. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm speaking on. So I'm like, we have to come together like they're coming together. And then not sleep on it, you know, giving us a chance, but we're not even coming together. We're doing the same thing we did before. That ain't gonna work. That ain't working. That's not coming together. Coming together, you gotta have a military. You gotta have your own protection. You know, 'cause that's what they're doing. They're forming, and you can't sleep on that. You know, They've been doing this stuff since I was a kid. They've been forming since I was a kid, but they seem to always not believe that fat meat's greasy. You really can't mess around with the most highest people, you know? I don't care how much togetherness you get, but you can't mess with them. So I suggest we find a way to come together in some kind of form, in some kind of way, or make a hard decision or something. Because all it's going to do is go back to the way it was when people were acting fake and phony in the 80s. All it's going to do is cause an uproar, you know. I don't know, I could just be talking, I could just be guessing, you know what I'm saying? I'm just going by the way I see. I'm not saying that I'm right, you know. Because stuff that I'm saying is happening now anyway. But what I'm seeing on the news, I'm seeing a whole bunch of stuff formulating, you know. And President Donald Trump, he's all about business. You know, he's all about business. So it's like, whatever the business is do the business, you know. And then anything else, where you know, that's the kind of person. That's the kind of person he really is. He's all about business. And the people that surround him is all about telling him business, and showing him, and directing him, and all that, you know. And if we're like that, then you know. But you have to understand, we don't have the media. The media's not for us. So because the media's not for us, we have to go to another direction with it. What direction is that? That direction is staying and getting together and knowing that we have to deal with only one, the Most High. The Most High. Stick with that. You know? One thing you have to understand. Do all this and do all that. Let's go again.